Hey there, welcome to Board Game Hot Takes, the podcast where we give our immediate reactions to the hottest board games just minutes after playing them. My name's Tim.
And this is Chris.
This is Adam.
And today, instead of our hot take review of a game we just finished playing, we're going to be talking about the top 5 games that we only played once in 2022. Weird topic, I know. I'll get around to why we picked it in a minute. But this episode is releasing right after New Year's, so hopefully it gives you a little look back at 2022 before we head right into 2023. Before we jump into that topic, we're going to talk about some poll results this week. I asked a poll on Twitter. Are you planning to give yourself any board game related challenges in the new year? Something like a 10 by 10, or play everything on your shelf of shame, or play X new games to me, etc. How do you guys answer this?
I answered no on the poll because, I just figured I'm going to play the games I want to play just for fun, and I don't need to set any extra goals. But, actually that's not true because of the podcast. I think every year my goal is always to step up things a little bit on the podcast, do things a little bit better, get a little bit better production, put new interesting things into the podcast. And so I think that probably qualifies as a board game related goal. So yeah, that's mine.
I also put no, Chris. I was like, I already have enough trouble trying to learn one game a week, and that's like a challenge for me. So really, I want to refocus on being able to compete with Steve on the first time we play these games. He's always like read the rulebook 3 times and somehow done a practice run, a practice huddle, and a run. He smokes us more often than not on some of these games that we play the first time. I don't know, I feel like at least conservatively 50% of the time he's up there whooping our butts. And there's 4 of us, right? You think it'd be 25%, but no. So if I can learn these games a little better before we jump into them, and I'd like to hop on your back, Chris, with production-wise and make the podcast a little better. I think that's a very good goal for me to tackle as well. What'd you say, Tim?
I also said no, but Adam, going along with your goal, I think we need to start tracking plays and logging league plays again, because I'm really curious if it really, if Steve really is winning that often. I know it feels that way sometimes. Feels like he's got a head up on us, but I think we should track it. Chris, think you're up for it? Can you start tracking plays again this year, tracking wins for the league, and see how we do over the course of 2023? Great time to start.
Yeah, I kind of miss it. Every time we get together for one of our game weekends, the intensity level just skyrockets, and that'd be great if we were able to do that in our regular weekly play.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't set a specific goal. I think your guys' goals are great. I like the idea of a 10 by 10, but the reality is that if I'm going to play 10 games of something that I know I can get done, it's probably got to be solo games, and that's kind of fun. I might say, hey, I'm going to try to get 10 games of each of my solo games in this year to make sure I'm going back to them regularly. But, more often than not, the people I'm playing with, they kind of pick the games that they like to play. So if I say I'm going to play 10 games of something and they don't like it, it's not going to get played. So I don't need to set any goals. But we had a lot of interesting comments on it. Actually, a lot of great comments on this. Now, I made a mistake on this poll, which you guys know is a frequent occurrence with me. I forgot to ask it on Facebook. So I apologize to our Facebook group followers. I've been marketing it on there and saying, telling people to go follow us there. Go ahead and follow us. We will get back to that. I just missed it this week. I was traveling, completely messed it up. But on Twitter, the results were yes. 38% said yes, they were going to set some kind of goal for themselves, some kind of challenge. And 62% said no. But really, lots of really great comments on there. So go check those out. I just picked a few of them here. I'll read really quickly. Jacob Long said, definitely. I set myself some challenges this year for the first time and failed them all. But it pushed me to play games more often and also gave my wife some easy decisions when choosing games. She'd always say, what's on our challenges? I think as long as you don't get bogged down with finishing the challenges and more why you wanted to do the challenges, I think that's a great philosophy. It's fun to have some goals and maybe unlock those badges, you hit that thing and you hit it, but it's a good philosophy to not get too hung up on it. Brian Chandler said, I'd like to play all my unplayed games, about 80, and then make some keep cold decisions. Brian, yeah, get those unplayed games done, dude. Get those out of your class. You don't need all those games. But you know what? I'm not going to judge you because Chris Prime here said, I'm hoping to keep my shelf of shame from growing over 100. Oh, you guys. All right. You're stressing me out here. As said, new challenge in BG Stats is the alphabet challenge. Can you play a game from each letter of the alphabet? I'll be doing that plus another game a day challenge and maybe some 10 by 10s, keeping it fun throughout the year and feel like you're accomplishing something. I read that one because I really like the alphabet challenge idea. That's a fun idea. Find something from A to Z to play this year. Marie said, his goal was to check my FOMO each time I make a decision on buying a game. Am I buying out of social pressure or because I truly want to play the game? That's a good goal to have set for yourself, so you don't end up with a shelf of shame of around 100 games. Okay, and then we got a couple people that pushed back on these challenges a little bit. Graham said, I'm not concerned by any challenges. Happy to go with the flow when it comes to my gaming, and I've never had unplayed games on my shelf for longer than about a weekend. I want to join in a local gaming group next year. It would be great to meet more people and play fewer solo games. So those are some good goals, Graham. But, don't push yourself, make it unfun. And Alyssa said, board game is my relaxation time. Life is challenging enough. Fair enough. Yeah, totally right there with you. But yeah, I mean, I like the idea of these goals, these challenges. It's a fun concept. And again, kind of motivates you to get more games at the table. Maybe I'll do it next year. Let's jump into our feature topic. We're doing 2 top 5 lists in a row. The reason for that is because we got some holiday travel going on. We don't have time to get together and play a game. So we wanted to throw a quick topic together so we don't miss an episode. This will be episode number 126 in a row without missing a single week. Let's keep the streak going, guys. So the reason I picked this topic is that it is the end of the year, and I wanted to pick something that either looked forward to next year or celebrated this last year. And the topic I thought about was the top 5 games that we only played once in the last year, because I think we go back and we talk a lot about the games we're playing a lot, the ones we're excited about. Barrage is a great example, right? We played it for the first time this year. We talk about it all the time because we love it. But there's also a lot of games that we play. And in fact, our whole format oftentimes is about talking about a game right after we play it. In some cases, it's the first time we played it. So there are a lot of those games that we touch on one time, but then we don't think about for the rest of the year. So I thought it'd be fun to revisit some of those games that we only talked about, that we only played once, whether we talked about it on the show or not, and see how we felt about it. But I revisited my list and I was like, wow, there's some great games on here that I would really like to play, and for whatever reason haven't. So we're just going to go through those really quickly, talk about some hidden gems that didn't keep coming back for us this year, but maybe will in the future, and just really quickly touch on maybe why they didn't make it back and whether we think we're going to get them back to the table at some point.
Another reason, Tim, that I thought this was an interesting topic was that we have this kind of odd phenomenon because of the fact that none of us actually live in the same place. And that is, we find these games, and some of them we really love, some of them we don't love, and there's some that would make it into a rotation if we all lived together, and we were able to get together and pull these games out. But we don't. So we're kind of stuck doing the heavy rotation games. We're limited to those things that are on BGA, really, because that's the only place where we can easily play these async games. So what that ends up meaning is that we end up having these really heavy rotation games like Barrage and Le Grand Ha, these ones that we play over and over and over again, largely because it's so easily accessible on BGA. But there's plenty of games out there that we play that I'd be happy to play if we live near each other. I'd be happy to play if they were async on BGA, and they sort of get short shrift because they're just not that easy to get to online.
That's a great point, Chris. I think that does happen a lot. And also I find the games that I go back and play a lot are games that either other local friends have and they want to keep getting back to the table, or that my, Jen and Danielle, who are the people I play with the most, that they really enjoy. They may not have any interest in going back to a game that I really love. But yeah, you're right. Board Game Arena makes some of these games, revisiting some of these games, really easy. And otherwise, why buy them if they're not going to get played? So I just haven't gotten back to them.
Yeah, I don't have any in-person gaming groups set up at the moment. Again, haven't rebounded since the COVID pandemic swept the country. So looking to get those groups going. Also, I have kids running around. So our weekly meetup, when we learn a game and play it, is often the only time I'll play that game. Like you mentioned, Chris, especially if it's Tabletop Simulator, that's probably the one time I'm going to play that game. Whereas you said, if it's on Board Game Arena, we can play it all the time. But yeah, some of these one-offs that we've played on Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia, it takes a little, we're getting lazy, I guess. It takes us too much effort to set one of those up digitally now. We're just like, is it on Board Game Arena? Let's go play that. I don't want to do all this setup on Tabletop Simulator. What a mess.
Adam, you talked about getting some of your tennis friends together to play games. That hasn't happened yet?
Not yet. The house is still, there's still like screws and nails sticking out every once in a while. We need to get the backyard cleaned up and get all the crud just out of here. It's too embarrassing to have anybody over here yet. So it's coming soon. I'm ready for it. I'm a little nervous. They're going to come over and they're going to make fun of me for board games, and they're going to love it. And they'll be like, dude, well, how come you haven't played board games with us before? So
nice.
I'm looking forward to it.
So did you guys have any trouble making this list, or was it pretty easy? Just look at the ones you only logged once and found some really easy hits here?
Surprisingly, yeah, it was very easy because I went back and I looked, and I will admit that there is one cheat. It was a game that we played the year before. It wasn't from 2022, 2020. Yeah, my goodness, what year are we in? There's one that I went back more than 1 year for. But other than that one, I mean, it was easy as cake to do this. Lots of good games we played.
I found it pretty easy. I found about 8 or 9 on my list that could have made it. And so I just had to make a couple quick cuts and then sort them. So it wasn't too hard. Lots of games that I'm excited to talk about today that I really would love to go back to. So that was cool to see that I've got at least 5 of those. But I'd say there's probably like 8 or 9 total that I've only played once this year. But
yeah, I think I quickly went back and I found 6, 7 right off the bat. And I was like, oh, I'll get rid of these. I'll talk about these 5. So it was easy, surprisingly easy. I thought this was going to be a tough one, tough homework assignment, but no, it went quickly.
Well, Chris, jump in. Give us your number 5.
Right. Well, my number 5 is actually a game that came up very briefly on last week's episode when we were talking about the games we wanted to play in 2023. And we did a quick recap of the games that we had wanted to play in 2022. And one of mine was Golem by Flaminia Brazzini, Virginio Gili, and Simone Luciani, and published by Cranio Creations. I think every time this game has come up, I've mentioned how much I want to play it again. But of course, like we've been talking about, it's only available to me on Tabletop Simulator, and that's not really a place where you can play it async. But this game has stuck in my mind ever since we first played it. It's highly thematic. It's a very moody game in terms of its theme, which I really like. In a sense, it reminds me a little bit atmospherically, a little bit of Merchants of the Dark Road, a game that none of us liked, but we all liked the production and the theme on. It's haunting. That's the best way to put it. In fact, if you look at the front page, the box of this game with that really creepy golem face, I mean, that almost sums it up. That's not, that's nothing but a picture, but boy, it sure does sum up the feel of this game. You add on to that some really excellent mechanisms, a couple of interesting oddities like the marble synagogue that helps you pick your actions. And I just want to get this one to the table again. I have actually thought several times about buying this one because I do want to play it again, and I don't want to do it on Tabletop Simulator. Haven't done it yet, but it's definitely on my short list. If I were to go buy a game today, this would be one of the ones I'd be looking at.
Chris, if I was a betting man, I am. If somebody would have taken the bet, I would have bet $100 that this was going to be on your list today. I was positive about it. In fact, it showed up on my games I'd only played once, but I actually played it twice, which shows how well I track my plays on Board Game Geek. So I didn't add it to my list, but I think it might have made it if I had actually only played it once. Super fun game.
Chris, what was haunting to me was trying to count up my scoring at the end of this game. I got to look here, got to look here, got to look here. No, this one was thoroughly mediocre for me, but your enthusiasm is making me want to play this one again.
All right. Well, my number 5 game was Messina 1347. This is a Vladimir Suchy game. I played this once in person with somebody, and I really liked this game. It was a fun mix of, a little bit of engine building, a little bit of worker kind of placement or worker movement. Basically, the theme is that you're fighting the plague in early, Europe as the plague's starting to spread. So you're like burning down houses that have plague tokens on them, and you're trying to not get rats on your boat. And it's got a interesting thematic mix, but really cool mechanisms. You're rescuing these villagers, but you got to put them into your quarantine tents. But when they're in your quarantine tents, you're putting them to work, so they're actually making resources for you. So there's some fun timing elements. I had a lot of fun playing this game. I would say it didn't stand out enough for me to go like hunting it out, but I think if I find this one on sale at some point, I'll pick it up and get some plays of it. It was a nice kind of easy to get into, but fun decision type of game by Vladimir Suchy. So I really like Messina 1347.
I have a reliable source that tells me this one's available on Yucata.
Nice. We should maybe you guys would be up for playing it. I think it's really fun. I think you guys might enjoy this one actually.
Yeah, let's do it.
My number 5 was a game by Elizabeth Hargrave. This is The Fox Experiment. I'd be a little bit shocked if this doesn't show up on your guys' list. I loved the generational aspect of the game where you're making a fox this round, and that becomes apparent for the new kits, the baby foxes of the next round. That's a mechanism that I couldn't get over. I still think about how neat that was and how well implemented it was in this game. Super cute game. What an interesting theme. Got to learn a little bit about something I never knew about, and the game was great too. So looking forward to going back to this one. only available on Tabletopia, I believe, right now, as it's a Kickstarter and not expected to release until 2023.
Well, Adam, when you said that this game might show up on some of our other lists, you weren't wrong. So I'm going to try to do a really quick pivot and think of another game to replace it with as we move on. But in the meantime, my number 4 is Circadians Chaos Order by S.J. McDonald and Zach Smith, published by Garphill Games. This is another one that I get the feeling that all of us really like that. I think this is a terrific game, some really interesting combinations of resource management, Euro-style mechanisms, along with some great area control and some really interesting and odd theming with these giant relics and an interesting story behind it. That was a game that we all enjoyed, and I think one of us, I don't remember who it was, bought this one. Was it you, Tim?
Well, actually, what happened was after we reviewed it, Garphill reached out to us and said, "Thanks for the review. We'd like to send you a copy of it." And so I said, "I would like to talk about this game again. So if you want to send it, I'll take a copy of it." So I did have a copy of this in my collection.
Gotcha. Because I remember this one came to Long Beach when we had our last con, and it sat there, this big, awesome looking box through the whole weekend. And there's always this push and pull. You know, you picking your game, and it's like, do I pick one that I know? Do I pick one that I'm excited to try? Do I pick one that I've played before and I want to play again? And there's so many times that I felt my hands almost like magnetically drawn toward that box. But it just ended up getting pushed out by something else, something by Eric Lang or some other game I was particularly excited about or knew better or what have you. And we never quite got to it. But I have a feeling that if that box shows up in Sedona when we have our next con, that may be one of the ones that I pick for my choice.
Yeah, well, so both of these games are games that were right off my list. There were a couple that would have been on there, and I would love to go back to both of these at some point. The Fox Experiment just barely fell off, and Circadian's Chaos Order, I didn't really count as a single play because I did set it up when Garphill sent me the game, and I set it up so I could learn it for our con. Like I learned it multi-handed, and I really enjoyed relearning that game. And the problem with it for me is that it was a fairly long game. I think it was like a 4-hour game the first time we played, and I don't think that would change a whole lot in person. And so when we were doing our con, it's just like we want to get through as many games as we can. So every time I thought about suggesting that, I was like, this is going to, take up the time of 2 or 3 games. So I didn't pull it out at that con, and I've tried to get it played locally, and I just can't get enough people to sit down and go through a 45-minute to an hour teach and then, play a 4-hour game with me. So I did really enjoy this game. I think it's a great, interesting area control game with some cool Euro mechanisms on it. I wish I could have gotten it played more. I actually just gave it away to somebody. It's not in my collection anymore because I just don't think I can get it played, and I don't keep stuff around that I don't. So I regret that I asked Garphill to send it on to me thinking that we were going to get it played at that con, but I just don't see how it's going to get played. Really cool game. I would love to play it if somebody wants to. If somebody invited me to it, I would 100% do it. But I'm not going to sit on the box for years waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, this was on my short list too, Chris, number 6 or number 7, and it got bumped out of the top 5 there. But yeah, this game was fun. I like those crystal spiked plains and the oddly named mountain regions and whatever other regions, confusing topographical layout. Anyway, yeah, very cool game. It was very much like one of these, sort of like a coin game, kind of in the same vein as Root, where very asymmetric factions are doing a bunch of different things. And I had a lot of fun playing that one as well. But yeah, didn't make my top 5 either.
Yeah, the 2 things I remember most about our play of that, one was those really odd topographical features that you mentioned. That and you flying your dropship around, killing all of us, basically. I think you destroyed us in that game. It was
Dropship was cool.
It was embarrassing how bad you beat us in that game.
Well, hopefully we can get back to it at some point. All right, well, my number 4 is a game we actually featured on the show fairly recently. We only had a chance to play it once, and that's Terracotta Army. I really like this play, and I can't get it out of my head. So I probably will be picking this game up. If I see it on sale, for sure I will. Probably before we get together on our next con, because I do think Adam would really love this game, and I had a fun time with it. I love to play it in person. So this is one that I think I would be happy to invest a little bit into and at least get one more play out of it. So Terracotta Army is my number 4. I can't wait to get back to it.
That was another one that was my number 6 or 7 right there with Circadians Chaos Order, just outside of my top 5. Did I really get to play this game once? I played it for like 2
that's right.
turns, yeah, and then I had
You
to
did make
bail
it through.
because there had the ultimate poltergeist sickness going on. Another fun game. Looking forward to playing this one again. Again, the in-game scoring looks a little confusing. Get out your calculators and punch cards and be ready to take some notes for that in-game scoring.
I said that in the review, and everybody disagreed with me. So hopefully, for your sake, they were right and I was wrong. But I think all of us thought you would really enjoy this game.
Well, we said we didn't disagree that there was a lot of heavy scoring. We were saying that we liked that there was endgame scoring to kind of give you a long-term strategy to plan for. So I don't fully disagree with you there.
All right, my number 4 is one we played way back. This is Brian Boru. This is by Pierre Sylvester. Artist is Deidre DeBarra and publishers Osprey Games. A nice, clean production here. It's got like old school Euro trappings with some chits and some wooden circles, and it's got some marriages, some area control, some roads, some confusing player colors with location colors, but whatever. The mechanisms were cool. It's got a little bit of this pseudo trick taking along with some area control. So where you're going to put your city marker out, or you can put it along this road that's close to this blue color, that's close to this other territory, that's going to give you this many points. A lot of fun choices to make here. I want to go back and discover how much agency, how much of a strategy you can actually implement, or what kind of strategy to even implement. I guess it's not Viking weddings. There's Viking warriors trying to raid you, and then you're trying to marry, whatever. A lot of stuff. Monasteries, weddings, Vikings. You get the picture. Ancient Ireland. That's Brian Boru.
Any game that can pull together politics, romance, and Viking battles is okay in my book.
Yeah, Brian Boru was a cool one, and it was on my short list as well. I have so many good games coming, though, still. Brian Boru never would have made the list with these other ones.
Fair enough.
So my number 3 is my cheat game. This is one that we played back in 2021, and it has stuck with me ever since. And it also goes to show that not every game on my list is one that I really enjoyed that much. And this game is AuZtralia by Martin Wallace and published by Stronghold Games. This is a game that I want to like so badly that even though I had a miserable play of it, I feel like I want to go back and give it another try because I must have been missing something. I mean, good God, this is 1930s Australia, World War II era, Cthulhu and the Great Old Ones, raiding people's farms, eating their vegetables. I don't know what they're all doing, but I mean, there's so much. The theme of this, I mean, you guys know I love theme, right? And I mean, this game, it's such a bizarre and interesting idea. Martin Wallace, I mean, he's a reputable designer, does really good stuff. And there's so many concepts in this game that I think are so interesting and I think seems so fun that I still can't quite believe that I didn't like this game more than I did. As I recall, I just felt like by the end of the game, things were just sort of, slogging along, that there was no challenge. There was no big crescendo at the end where you're trying to wrap things up, that it just kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to kill this bad guy and then I'm going to build this train route and then I'm going to kill another bad guy. And, maybe that was one play. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's just how the game is all the time. But I feel like I need to give this one another try because it just seems too cool not to give it at least one more shot.
Still waiting for you to get the big Kickstarter version of this. Bring it to one of our cons because I can't wait to play it again, Chris. I like this game a lot.
I actually did sign up for the Kickstarter on this one and did like the $1, pledge just to keep your spot. And then every time I got one of those notices saying, okay, pledge manager's coming, pledge manager's open, I went back and I was like, should I do it? Should I not do it? And I never ended up doing it. So I don't know.
Well, you give him $1. So my number 3 is Boonlake by Alexander Pfister. This is a game I had a chance to play one time in person again this year. And this was such a fun mix of interesting mechanisms. I don't know. It might have been my favorite Alexander Pfister game, to be honest. I found it the action selection in it to be really clever. Lots of little bonuses here and there. There was like this tile building thing, kind of this farm building thing that happens. The scoring on that was a little quirky, maybe a little overcomplicated, but I think you'd get past that on a game or two. I really had fun playing Boonlake and would love to go back to it again. So this was my number 3 this year and would love to get some more plays of it.
Yeah, Tim, this is one I tried just based on your enthusiasm for it. I haven't, the only thing I know about it is what you said about it. So you have this one. You own this one, right?
I don't know. No, just somebody local that I know around here does own it. But hopefully I'll get some plays with them. But yeah, I don't have a copy.
All right.
Yeah, I was kind of intrigued when you told us about this whole Lotus and a circuit board thing on the cover. I'm like, oh, interesting. That's got to mean something. Got to be good.
Weird cover. Maybe it'll come on Board Game Arena at some point and we can get an act out. There's Alexander Pfister actually. Yeah, he's got Great Western Trails on Board Game Arena, so that's perfect. Yeah, maybe they'll throw it up there. Who knows?
My number 3, well, I have the advantage of not having made it to Portland Con. So you guys played a lot of games there that I wasn't able to join in on. So I think a few of these games I only played once. Advantage in this case, disadvantage in life of not making it to the Portland convention you guys were at. So I'm talking about Rising Sun. This is Eric Lang, published by Simon Games. And we played this when we were in Long Beach, and it was the first time I got a hold of it. And did you guys, I think you guys might have played this for just a review episode too that I couldn't make. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and you guys all said, Adam would love this one. Yeah, I did love this one. I had a great time playing it. I felt like I missed some things. I didn't really understand fully what was happening. By the end of the game, I was in last by like 3,000 points. And there's a few other things I needed to pick up on to keep up. So despite that, I still had a great time playing it. The production, of course, is outstanding. And the art, I think, is beautiful. And the mechanisms are great. I like that the way you're walking through the little actions at the top, and you have your ally, your pseudo ally there that you're loosely aligned with, at least for this round. I think it's all fun and make for some interesting gameplay and some fun interactions, despite what Chris is going to say about the alliance mechanism.
That's the only bad thing Chris is going to say about this game is the alliance mechanism. It was bad enough that it makes me lose my enthusiasm. But everything else about this game is so cool. I don't blame you for loving it. I almost love it. I don't quite love it, but I almost love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I bought this for Portland Con for Long Beach Con, for Long Con, and I want to get back to this so bad. So it's sitting on my shelf. This is not leaving my collection. I can't wait to get this played with some people. I'm trying to set up a local game night in the near future, and this will be one of my top first picks to play again. So can't wait to play some more Rising Sun.
Cool.
All right. Well, my number 2 game is Dice Forge by Regis Bonasse and published by Asmodee Games. This is one that I don't remember what episode it was, but it was on a night where we'd already recorded the episode, or we were recording a special episode. And so we just needed something to play, to have some fun before that. And we wanted something kind of light and breezy. And so one of us, I don't remember who, had suggested Dice Forge. We played that, I think 2 games, maybe 2 games. And it was so fun. I had such a good time playing this. It was on BGA, so super easy to play. Like, walked you right through everything. But I mean, I just love the idea of taking these dice and actually building your dice up. That was a blast. I really enjoyed doing that. Now, the physical copy, I imagine, would probably be less enjoyable than playing it online because of that whole snapping the faces onto the die. I think one of you who had actually played the physical version said that can be a real bear to deal with. And so maybe this is even a better way to do it. But I love the concept, and I thought it was super fun. I don't know if I'd want to deal with all that fiddliness with the dice in real life, but my goodness, as an online game, I thought it was great. It was breezy. It was light. It wasn't too thinky, but it actually gave you some interesting decisions to make as you built up your dice and improved them. And I would love to play this one again.
Now, I feel like we played 2 games in a row that night. So the fact that you're calling this on your only played once list, I think you just missed track.
Yeah.
Disqualified. Chris is disqualified.
Well,
no, fair enough.
I already used AuZtralia. That was from a different year. So I'm already off the rails here.
Everyone's got to cheat at least once. This was a fun game. I played it a couple more times since. My brother invited to play it with me and my parents on Board Game Arena as well. And it got redundant pretty quickly for me. So this is one that I don't need to go back to a lot. Now, I just picked up Dice Realms, which is a Tom Lehman game that also has replaceable dice faces. Seems really fascinating to me. I picked it up at a used sale at this local seller's market. So I'm excited to try that one and see how that one compares and if that sticks a little bit better for me. But Dice Forge is fun. It's a fun little light game.
Yeah, I like the concept here, Chris, where you're able to upgrade your faces of your die. I'm waiting until someone develops, it's sitting right there, a dice deck builder. Come on, you're changing the face of your dice with these amazing cards, and they're replacing cards with the other cards, slotting them in. Get John D. Clare involved in this. Some giant dice like this big that you have to roll it. It's right. It's sitting right there, guys. Come on.
Sounds like an idea worth its weight in gold, Adam. Let's do it.
Right.
All right. Well, my number 2 game. Yeah, number 2. This is a game that I think you guys would love. This is Francis Drake. The designer is Peter Howes. The publisher is Eagle Griffin Games. So this was a game that I wasn't on my radar at all. Apparently, Francis Drake was a true pirate or privateer or something like that from several hundred years ago. And he was going out, and I think he was British, and stealing from the Spanish military, Spanish government, right? And so he's out there and he's raiding colonies, and he's got his pirate fleet, and he's knocking down ships from other pirates, from this, from the Spaniards. So he, instead of being a pirate, he's considered a privateer. He's basically doing work for the government and getting paid for it. This was a really fun game. It's kind of a light, little bit of Euro, a little bit of area control, a little bit of blind bluffing game. And it's got the basic mechanism is this kind of rondel mechanisms, but it's really a track. And so you're going to move your token up this track, and then wherever you stop, you're going to get the benefit. But each of the spaces on this track has depleting benefits. So like a lot of these rondel games, the further forward you go, maybe you get a better benefit faster, but then you're skipping over a lot of other spaces. So that's, for me, that can be really fun. And I think this was one of the better implementations of it. But basically, you're trying to collect some resources like guns for your ships or soldiers that can go and fight these colonies. When you get to the end of the track, though, basically, you're going to take these resources and you're going to try to send your ship out and knock out other fleets and knock out colonies and things like that. And you're going to do that by putting these blind bidding ships down on spaces. And the other people are going to blind bid as well. And then you flip them all over when you get to that space on the board, and everybody flips them over, and whoever goes first gets the first benefit. So sometimes you're going to be the only one that gets a benefit. Sometimes you're going to be the one that gets the best benefit. So there's a little bit of a, like, if you've got the highest number on that space, you're going to win it. So really fun decisions. It was always a fun reveal when those things got flipped over. Thematically, it was pretty interesting. There was a lot of really cool stuff going on in this game. I had a great time with this play of it. Fascinating game. I think you guys would really like it. I don't know, why it's not more popular, because I thought this was a super interesting game.
Tim, I first heard about this one from the guys at Board Game Barrage, and ever since I heard them talk about it and rave about it, I've been wanting to play this one. Almost pulled the trigger on buying it a few times when I saw it on sale, but I never did, because who am I going to play it with? So I would absolutely love to play this game, and that's just solely based on hearing about it, hearsay, and reputation. So that's Francis Drake. I'd love to play this one. My number 2 game is one that we just took a deep dive in. Did a hot take on. This is Lacrimosa. Designer is Gerard Asensi, Fernand Renalius, and published by DeVere Games. This one is this one available right now in the United States? I know it's at least in Europe.
I believe so.
I think it's available.
I think you can buy it. If it's it might be between printings. Maybe it's sold out or something, but I'm pretty sure you can pick this one up.
Okay. So we just played it. We talked about it. You can listen to our episode. It's like 2 or 3 episodes back. We loved it. Steve crushed us. Another one Steve crushed us at, and he's the one that was most sour on it. He's like, I don't care about Europe and culture and classical music. And so he was pretty surly on it, but we had a great time playing it. You're fighting for composition control and who's going to write the horn section and who's going to write the organ section, who's going to do the percussion of which movement. And it's kind of a race to get those first. You can block people out. Wait a minute, Tim's only got horn tokens left. Let's take this last horn section over here. Now he's got 2 horn tokens. He can't do anything when it's stuck on his board. Some neat decisions, travel around Europe, relive the life of Mozart through memories, beautiful musical pieces, and a lot of opuses, a lot of opie out there. So that's a great game for me that I want to play again. That's Lacrimosa.
All right. Well, that brings us to game number 1. And I'm going to second that point earlier about not every game that is on this list is one that I loved. What game, if you had to guess, is the least likely that you'd think I would ask to play again?
Some sort of card game.
Merchants of the Dark Road.
Close. Good guess.
I feel like so as soon as you say, I'm going to be like, "Yep, that's the one."
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna make you suffer through continuing the guess. But my answer here is Arcs, and this is strictly because I'm acknowledging the fact that sometimes I can be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong with this game. I think this is one that I will probably dislike as much the second play as I did the first play, because I can think back in my memory about how that game went, And I don't love the idea, but I also feel like that was a night when my head wasn't really in it. And generally I respect your guys' impression of this, and everybody was raving about this game. And so I hold out the possibility that there is a small piece of this that might have been that my head was just in the wrong space to enjoy the game that night. And so I do want to play it again. I mean, it has some interesting ideas. I'm not a huge trick-taking game fan, and that's kind of what this is based on, which is one of the reasons why I don't think I'm wrong on this. But it did the trick-taking in a slightly unusual way, and I don't always think those are unpleasant. I mean, something like Brian Boru, I found kind of pleasant, interesting. Shamans, I find pleasant and interesting. I mean, I love Kyle Farron's wacky space art in this game. So I'm absolutely up for playing this one a second time to see if maybe I was wrong. I hope I am wrong. Now, I think one of you, or both of you maybe, got this one on the Kickstarter. I know Tim did. Adam, did you do it too?
I did.
Okay. So we'll have plenty of copies of this floating around if we ever decide to play it again.
Yeah, I'm excited that you were interested in giving it a shot again, Chris, because I'm really excited about it. I hope this is a great game. And I love the idea of a 3-game campaign. So this is something that you can knock out 3 hour-and-a-half long games and play through a whole story arc. No pun intended there. And so that would be fun. I think this would be a fun one for us to spend 4 or 5 hours with on at a con and try to get through a whole arc with it.
Well, this is one I was considering too, but I realized I played it twice, and I knew Tim was going to call me out on a technicality. Like, Adam, remember, we played that twice. It's disqualified. So I did not want to get kicked out of the Board Game Hot Take Association like Chris did earlier in this episode. But Arcs, what a fun game. I'm looking forward. I think it's changed a lot since we played it.
Yeah. Well, what I love, I've seen some of the updated art, and I love the direction it's going in. Like, I already liked it. I thought it was a cool, funky style, and now they're like adding all this flair to it. And I'm like, wow, the production is going cool. They're talking about wooden buildings and things like that. And the question is it going to end up overcomplicated like some of Cole Worley's designs are, to where it's not a light, fun game for me anymore? But I'm still really excited to explore this. I'm excited about the prospect of this game that you can play like a really unique campaign with. I also wanted to touch on Lacrimosa, which Adam mentioned. That just missed my list. I was trying to struggle between that or Terracotta Army as recent games that we played that I wanted to bring up again. And I think Terracotta Army is a little more intriguing to me, but I really like Lacrimosa too. So that's also exciting, Adam. I would love to play that one again too. My number one, though, is a game called Tiletum, which I only talked about in On the Table segment recently. I played this locally with somebody I know. The designers were Simone Luciani, Daniel Tascini. One of my least favorite productions by these Italian designers, but my favorite mechanisms as far as I can remember, right? I mean, we play a lot of these games, and when you play it once, it's hard to tell, is that just a flash in the pan where you're just in a good mood that day? But I think this is a game that would be really fun to revisit. I don't think this is a game that would ever get stale. Lots of cool choices to make here. And so I really want to revisit Tiletum. And this, listen, I just picked up 2 Daniel Tascini games this week for $20 a piece at our local sellers market. I'm sure this is going to be on that pile in a year or two. So I'll probably end up picking this up at some point and getting to revisit it.
Tim, I want to play this one only because I can't believe that it's as good as you say it is. I want to play it. I want to be like, oh no, this is lame because of this and this and this. Or I want to be stunned and be like, Tim, you know what? You're right. This game is amazing. Despite its beiginess and Euro-iness, this game is... So I'm looking forward to trying this one too. Tiletum.
What I would guess might happen here is, like, I was really excited about Lorenzo and Magnifico, and I thought you guys were going to love the mechanisms in that as much as I did, and you clearly didn't. I'm expecting the same thing is going to happen with the Voyages of Marco Polo, which is why I haven't pushed you guys into it, because I really loved it, but it actually had some similar kind of dice drafting mechanisms. And so I'm afraid that Tiletum is just not going to hit for you the same way it does for me, but it is a different game than those. So who knows? You might love it. I don't know, but I'm not going to push you into it because you could totally hate it too.
Yeah, I'll try anything by these guys. I mean, so much of their stuff is good, and even their stuff that I don't like that much is still pretty good. So, and besides, I just want to say Tiletum. Tiletum.
All right, are we on to my number one?
We are.
This is it. Right. This is the whole kit and caboodle right here.
The whole kit and caboodle. My number one game, and this is a game you guys again played at Portland Con, and that I have the deluxe edition of. Sitting right behind me, that's Wonderland's War. It's by Tim Eisner, Ben Eisner, Ian Moss, publishers Druid City Games. Artists, I got to throw out the artists because the art's great. It's Manny Tremblay. This is a drafting game and a bag building game and an area control game. You throw out all these terms, it doesn't do it justice. There's so much color and punch and zaniness in this game. You got your player boards, you're upgrading your character as you go along. The combat is so cool. It's a straight press your luck. Do you want to keep going? Do you want to stop? You can kind of deduce the odds that are in your bag and if you're going to be able to keep going and win the combat outright. Or you know what? If you think the odds aren't that good and you want to stop on a little upgrade spot, then you can upgrade your character and still get something out of it even if you lose. Also, you're betting on who's going to win the combat if you're not involved in the combat. So that keeps you a little bit in it and rooting and jeering and this and that while the other two people are having a combat, other 2 or 3 or 4 people are having a combat. From head to toe, it just looks like a riot, and I can't wait to play this one again. Wonderland's War.
Man, what a great game, and what a complicated situation, because like you, I've got this gargantuan, like, hope chest of a box with the deluxe edition in it, and I have not played it once. I've got like 3 groups of people that I play games with here, and one of them, which is my family. And every time I've thought about, well, maybe I'll bring it out this time, or I'll bring it out this time, or maybe I'll get it with this group of people, it just never seems right because the rules overhead, it's heavy, it's fiddly, it's complicated, but so delightful. Once you learn it, and once you actually start doing it, what a great game this is. So, man, we're going to have to play this one in Sedona because this is one I think we all want to play again.
Yeah, Wonderland's War is great, and I've probably played it a dozen times. So I have this box. I've managed to get it out a lot. I've taught it to my wife, to our friend Jen. Jen's kid has played it with me. And what you guys are saying is not wrong at all. Like, we've had some great times with it, but I'm worried about bringing this out to kind of a entryway group of players, people that aren't really heavy gamers. But that's where I think it could actually hit really well. The problem is that there's so many rules or so many phases you have to track. And that's why Danielle, my wife, doesn't even want to play it anymore. Because the last time we played it, she's like, I feel like I'm spending so much time following this flow chart. And that's all true, but it pays off. It's worth it. So this is a really complicated one. The second to last game I had was with Jen and her son, her 11-year-old son, and we had a blast. He learned the rules. He watched us playing it one time. He's like, that looks cool. So he went and watched a how to play video. He knew how to play it. And we had such a fun time. We're standing up at the table, shouting for when we're pulling the chips out of our bag. And it's great. So you got to get past some of that overhead. I think the first teach with somebody is going to be challenging, but if they can kind of internalize the rules and you can get to that second game, it can be such a fun game. So yeah, this is great for our group. I think, Chris, me and Steve played it in Portland and had such a fun time on our second play of it. I remember that being a blast, and that's kind of how it goes for me. So when I've taught it, a little bit challenging. Once you're playing with people that know it, it's a great game. It's awesome.
Man, pardon my walking down, memory lane here, but man, what a fun experience that was too. Steve had bought that game. We were at the Mox Boarding House in downtown Portland, game cafe, game restaurant for those who haven't been there. Anybody who's in the Portland area needs to go there and check it out. It's amazing. We got this huge table. We're sitting there eating this delicious lunch, drinking cocktails, got this humongous game out, and oh my goodness, what fun that was.
Envious, guys. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, that was really fun to take this little revisit down some games that I might have forgotten if we didn't do this. I really like this episode, actually. I think this might be something we do at the end of the year going forward. This might be one of our recurring episodes. We'll see. In any case, I think that'll wrap up this conversation. I'm really excited, guys. We got a listener review this week on Apple Podcasts.
Hey.
So I'm going to share that with us really quickly. This was a 5-star review by Idaho Trent on Apple Podcasts. The title was Binge Worthy, but Now Avoid. Started listening to your podcast this summer. No, it's better than it sounds. Started listening to your podcast this summer while doing a house project. Have since binged all episodes in order. Feel like I know all of the hosts personally. Their takes are honest, complete, and entertaining. Now that I've caught up with the timeline, there's a void. Thanks. Really appreciate getting introduced to shamans. Keep it up. Thank you so much, Idaho Trent. So glad to hear you're enjoying it, and we kept your housing project fun. I actually also listen to board game podcasts while doing housing projects, so I can relate to you there, and glad you're enjoying shamans.
I thought you meant avoid, like stay away, not avoid, like they left a void. Oh, man. Thank goodness.
Right? And when I heard the title, like avoid it. Listen to the back catalog. Now avoid. Avoid them at all costs.
Binge worthy, but now a void.
No,
there.
much
Is that
better.
better?
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again. I don't try. In any case, that'll wrap up this episode. If you don't follow us on Twitter, you can find us at BG_Hot Takes. You can find our Facebook group at Board Game Hot Takes. And we also have an apparel shop you can find at the BoardGameHotTakes.com website. And Board Game Golden Geek Awards are coming up. Until next time, take care, everybody.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Bye-bye.